we'll say welcome to Lake Superior Interfaith Community Meeting.
Thank you.
All right. And then I would say that I would like to start by saying this prayer that I love to say. I give thanks to Mother, Father, God for bringing us all together as we support each other in the knowing that we are directed and supported through the love and power of God. Amen. I love that. And so this is the bottom line. In order to receive guidance and direction for this year of 2021 and the future, here are a few questions we can ask ourselves and comment on. First is, what brings you to our services each Sunday? What can we do more of? And is there something we can add? And the other one is, 1 year ago on the first Sunday of 2020, Phyllis told us, that was like 1 year ago, told us we are our cornerstone church. I can't believe that was a year ago, you guys. Anyway, over the next year, we want to think about what this means to us and how we will be changed by this idea. Okay. Number 3, it has come to our attention that our church needs to reestablish itself with the state and federal government. And every year at tax time, the church, even though we are not required to pay taxes, we are required to submit a form to each of those entities. And after a couple of years of this not being done, we no longer exist in their eyes. And we felt this was an opportune time to think about who we are and how we define ourselves, a cohesive core to guide Sunday services, and become a more inclusive community and inviting growth. So we will go from there. Who wants to put input into this? Or no, you know what? First, let's go do this. This is what I put. To create a new path for ourselves, take a few minutes to be silent, to be guided by Spirit, to reflect where we have been, and then where we would like to go in this year of 2021. So it should take maybe 2 or 3 minutes and just be silent and think about that. I'm going to look at my clock. Okay, and then we'll just think where we want to go. If you'd like more time, we could take more time, or we can continue on. Is everybody okay? Okay, that's enough time. Give us some focus. So we're open for discussion. Who wants to speak? Don't all speak at once. Where should we go? Where should we start?
Oh, Harley's here.
Harley, yay!
Hi y'all.
Just starting.
Ah.
Okay.
Harley, what just happened is that we were quiet for a little while to meditate on the questions that we may want to speak about in this community circle. So that's the story so far. And as you walked in, then that's when we just opened it up again by Carol. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, cool.
I can read these questions again. I mean,
Let's read the questions again.
Okay, this is it. What brings you to our services each Sunday, Harley? No. And what can we do more of? Is there something we can add? And number 2.
Let's just start there.
Okay, we'll start there. Okay, thank you. So, what brings you all of us to our services?
I'll go first.
Okay, thank you.
Because there's only one thing so far, and that's seeing everybody at lunch. Because lots of times we have really good speakers. However, I think they should be, and they are now, online. And I think that's a very good thing about our church, that we're opening up the wisdom that comes through our doors is here for the community. And that's something that I would like to see us spread the awareness of as time progresses, as we're more ready for the eyes of the community. So when it comes down to it, for me, it's relationships. And it's also a sense of, I don't want to use the word tradition, but it's what's presenting itself first. But I started in the in the early 80s. I had a long time with Rev. And then I was gone for 8 years, and all kinds of stuff happened, including the 100-year celebration, which I need to catch up on. But I have a strong sense of continuity with this space that we occupy in the community as a place where spirit, from a metaphysical point of view, from that kind of various cosmologies that go under that umbrella, are held with being spoken about and seen as a way of life, which I think is emerging all over. There's so many people now that believe this and that don't know that we really are a place that could be. So that continuity calls me to that, really a sense of responsibility. If we think of responsibility as the ability to respond. Okay, I'm a soul on earth. I came here to do this. I know that most of you probably feel that way consciously. And so I'm on duty as a soul. So I come to hold that lineage in our city. This is my chosen city. I moved here when I was 30 with intention, and this is where I choose to base. And so this is my ability to respond to God here. That's it.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there anything any of you could come up with that we could do more of? I mean, on Zoom at this point, I don't know, any ideas? Is there anything more we could do with our services at this point? Being where we're at. Any answers, any ideas or not?
Feel more from your heart.
Well, as long as we're Zooming, we should be able to get speakers from all over the country.
Yes.
You know, so that's a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure.
You know.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's Marilyn Rossner in Montreal. I'll bet she'd be a speaker. There's Paula Keither. And I've got Merritt Rossner's address, and I have Paula Keither's address, and I also have Paula Keither's telephone number, and I think Lisa's got it too.
Yeah,
could-
and I talked to one of my teachers, the gal who taught the breathwork class. She does it internationally. Tracy Moon and Sharon Nash are two teachers that I met down in Mexico, and they have held breathwork classes in Bali, in Oaxaca, in Italy. I mean, they're international folks, and she's actually going to come speak to us on the 7th of February
Yes.
about entering the heart through the breath. And there's a
Entering
couple
the
of other
heart.
people that could
Right.
come and speak, and I'm sure each of us have a couple of either friends or associates that we'd love to have share their wisdom with our congregation. So I think that's a great idea to kind
Yes.
of expand.
And Jean, I'll be talking to you too to get that number for Paula Keither or the address at least to contact them or to get their contact information. Just
Mhm.
we'll talk.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that'd be great.
Yeah. Okay. Got it, Marilyn. Paula Keither.
And really, there's no reason we won't be able to continue to do that if in some way we shape ourselves to use a screen. Because
We have a big screen at the church. I mean, that big, huge screen that drops down.
Mhm.
We used to do that.
Mhm.
Get a speaker from out of town.
Mhm. Because it is a way that the world has changed.
Right.
Yeah. The virus is changing the world.
Mhm.
Yeah, it seems to have opened up a lot more possibilities of communication
Mhm.
with each other.
Mhm.
Does anybody else want to speak on why it is they come on any given Sunday, whether it's to the church or to participate in what Lake Superior Interfaith has to offer, or in a moment, a Zoom meeting like this? Yeah. Sue?
When I first started going, which was 15 or so years ago now, the particular draw for me was that it was non-denominational. There's no denomination. There's an opportunity to learn so many different paths and people's ideas and thoughts and ways to connect with spirit, as Carolyn mentioned earlier. It's a place of spirit. So that when we do get together, whether it be on Zoom or in the building itself, or even at the lunch, I mean, everybody has an opportunity to share with each other these ideas. And we get to pick and choose what we want to use in our own life, as opposed to being told you have to do it this way. So that's what drew me in immediately. And finding when I walked in the door for the first time that I knew a bunch of people there, I was gonna just come in and sit in the back and do nothing and just try to be quiet and see what was going on. Hell no, I got hugs and stuff right away because I knew people there. I mean, I didn't have a clue that some of these people were coming to our church. So it was so heartwarming to be in a space and a place where I could learn so much and share so much and be part of a community that accepts all kinds of different stuff.
Correct.
Refreshing.
Yeah.
I've only been involved about 10 years probably, but this is, I feel closer to this group than any of the other groups I've been in, except maybe for my spiritual guru, you know, which I got in together with that in 75. So I've been with those people for years, but as a church group, then this is the closest I've ever felt to a group of people. That's why I still connect, we even down here in Florida.
Hey,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I first came to this church many, many years ago as well, because I was looking for something that was close to the unity idea, the Unity Church, where I belonged to the Unity Church in Arizona, Prescott, Arizona, when I lived there with my husband and family at that time. And so I don't know who pointed out the first spirit, or our church from way back. I can't remember what it was called now, but so that's how I got there. And I just liked the camaraderie and the people, and just the good vibes, the love, all that.
Yeah.
I felt very comfortable there, and all kinds of different people. I just felt like I wasn't being judged,
Correct.
that
Yes.
appealed to me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm doing a lot of listening, and what I'm hearing from all the various people that have spoken so far, whether you've been there for 30 years or I've only been there a little over 5. The thing I hear that is cohesive and connecting us is the sense of belonging,
Yeah.
and we're welcome no matter where we are on our spiritual journey, and there's no judgment. And I think that that's what keeps us coming. And I think that direction and expanding upon that, being even more inclusive and more open, is going to help us continue to be self-sustaining and to grow.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested in that because I've only been there like 5.5 years. And COVID or no COVID, we've gotten so many opportunities through COVID. Our church has been forced in many ways, legally, pandemic, and we're still here. And there's still those of us who are fighting to keep it going. And I think to do that, we really do need to figure out how we're going to do that and what we need to keep and how we can expand that umbrella to be more inclusive and welcoming. And I think we can do it, but it's going to take time, and it's going to take some effort and intention on all of our parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I very much agree with that idea.
Yeah. And we came in the 80s when Rev was there too. And the thing that affected me with him and about the church was to come from your spirit, the spirit that is within you, the spirit that has always been there. And then he would remind us of the spirit of the universe, and and the angels could come, and he would talk with the angels, and the angels were with us too. And so we were so much together as a family of spirit, a family of angels, a family of everything of the universe. And then I've had things happen to me at church that have never happened anywhere else in my life, to connect with the spirit of the universe. And so I know that the picture is fantastically gigantic, and gigantic spirit of your heart and love and peace and joy that you are, to share with each other, that we can share with each other everything we have been and always are, and will always will be the light and love, peace and joy for all of you, because I love you all, and it's a great time. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen, brother.
Is that Carolyn Brooks in there that says Carolyn? Who Carolyn is that?
It is. I just got on because I lost track of time.
All right.
People around to different jobs this morning. So
I'm glad you're here. We can't see you.
Sure.
You want us to see you?
nope, you can't.
Okay.
Well, I'm sitting on my couch And the window's behind me and you can't, all you get is this bright light. You couldn't see me anyway, so.
Understood. What can't tell bright light from bright light, can you, Carolyn?
So I'm sorry I'm so late. Have people been sharing how they found the church or just what you're getting out of the church?
Well, we started by reflecting on what brings you here, because I think that that's always a good place to start. Why did we maybe remind ourselves why we ever came to begin with? Because we're kind of trying to form and shape a conversation around where we'd like to see ourselves in 2021 and where we'd like to take the future of the church in its entirety. And I think it's always beneficial to reflect on whatever drew us to be here in the first place. And before we get too much farther down in the questioning, I'd really like to just highlight a couple of things. I was really hoping, and I still think it should be sent out. Carolyn Sheets has taken the last week or two to compile an awesome list of all of the things that the volunteers and members of our congregation have done throughout the course of not just this year, but in past years too. And just the things that get done, it's like I think it's so interesting. I think we think that it's elfin magic that takes care of these things sometimes, but we are the elfin magic. And the flowers along the sidewalk and the perimeter of the church, the lawn mowing and snow removal. We did manage to have both the book sale and the rummage sale go off. Carol Carey was coordinating our kitchen when we were all still in our little beautiful box. The potluck lunches that we put together, that's a contribution that all of us make together. And let's see, just general overall maintenance of the building. And I know that behind the scenes, Andrew and Steve probably mostly, but I wouldn't want to miss out on anybody else, kind of taking care of some of the tech stuff, even what brings us here and able to kind of connect with each other. And again, to kind of throw out the call that if there's anybody else who would like to learn how to do that, Steve would like to kind of step back a little bit, and Andrew doesn't want to be the only one. So if there's somebody else who has that tech capacity and they would like to be able to help us continue to be able to join together, that would be awesome. The preparation, lots of stuff behind the scenes. Like we all have a directory. I use it from time to time to get a hold of people, a way to compile all of us and let us be able to reach out. For as virtual a world, there isn't any Google for the members of Lake Superior Interfaith Community Church and how to reach them by phone or email. So without that directory, you got to take a drive. and I've done that sometimes. And that there is some community outreach. For as few people as there are in our congregation right now, there has been representation at CHUM for the Central Hillside United Ministries, and there have been other outreaches in support of other community organizations that we feel we'd like to be a part of. There is, some money changing hands on a weekly basis. We still are looking to solicit donations. We appreciate the contributions. Those contributions are real live dollars and cents, and they need to be deposited. And there's actually a paperwork process and a physical transfer of those funds into accounts, and that takes time and accounting. And then the bookkeeping that takes place in the back, and just updating, our addresses. And I think that touches upon a good measure of it. And then our church has also acted as a place. I know that there's been, I think it's a Gamblers Anonymous meeting that takes place there. I know the Unity folks have had a book study group there. There have been a number of I've led meditation courses in the past. So we really do a lot. But that isn't driven by some other body other than ourselves. And the prospect of having it be more than just the folks that you're looking at on the screen, I think is really important. And I think that we really need to look realistically at the fact that in the 20 some odd years I've been here, our numbers have not grown, they have diminished, and we are not the only ones. We don't need to take that personally at all. It's happening on a national basis. Congregations are shrinking. Some of them are merging together. Some of them are disappearing altogether. And if we want to continue to have our body of people and a presence here in the community, we want to look with conscious intention on how we'd like to see that grow from here.
Well, that said, my plan is to send out the list because I was guided to do it. It was not a plan. And I will be sending that out so that everybody, because we know we are a fraction of the people here, and it really needs to be printed out, and I don't have a way to do that, but there's lots of, I don't have a way to do that in-house, but it's easy to get things printed. I go up to a UPS store or whatever, there's many ways. And we can all help each other too. But it gives us a referral point, or well, I've been calling it, and we've been calling it a talking point when I think the profound work that Denise has thought of, and correct me here, Denise, as I do a brief introduction to this, but of starting to call people who aren't here on Zoom and who really have reasons for that and can be spoken to. So maybe Denise, you could speak a little to that, because that's really the bigger picture of what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I got this list of like 70 some names from the directory that Carol graciously put together and worked on over the last year. And, I started by eliminating people on the board because they're obviously here. Are people that we see regularly Zooming. I, didn't call them. I reached out to people that don't have the technology or aren't interested in the technology, one of the two. And it was very interesting experience. I didn't reach that many people. I tried. Mostly I got voicemail. People do not pick up their phone, especially if it's an unknown number caller, which I understand. I wasn't taking anything personally, but I did leave messages on over a dozen phones that I was able to get through and leave messages on. I didn't really contact, in all honesty, people that were like far away out of state that I had no clue who they were. I felt that if we wanted input on our physical community here and trying to keep our building, our property, our community alive, that it was more important to reach those who are physically here as well. I did get to speak with a few people, and a few people did return my calls. The general feeling I got was most, the people who didn't return my call or didn't respond in any way, I'm not sure if they're just not interested or they really don't feel that they have anything to say. I'm not sure if they don't. I don't know what their reasons were, but the people that I was able to speak with, I felt were very open. Were very willing to be more inclusive in our community so that we can grow. I didn't get anyone at all who said no. There was no big pushback on anything that we discussed. So that made me feel good. And I tried to present things in an open way, in a way where they would feel comfortable in talking and responding. And but yeah, the big thing I got was that the people that were interested and responded were not closed, were not fighting, didn't want change, they were all about wanting to keep us more inclusive. They wanted the energy level to come up. They wanted to see more people there. They wanted, basically, they do want some change, and they feel it's time. And change is a difficult thing for all of us. Yet, you know, we can think about something I heard this morning was you can either start again or you can start anew. And there's a very distinct difference between those two things. We can start again doing the same thing, or we can start anew and see what happens. And that's the feeling I got was very positive, even though it was a small number. The number I reached were positive.
Denise, for all you do.
Oh, it was just, I couldn't talk very much after that.
You couldn't talk what?
It was a lot of talking.
Uh-huh.
But
You know, I really don't know what you mean yet when you say they're open. What would you say they're open to besides change, general word of change?
to looking at who we are in the community, how we want to be seen in the community, what, you know, basically our identity, because it seems like our identity, which up to this point, over X number of years, it's been very ritualistic, very rote, almost to the point where, you know, you can expect on a Sunday, this is this and this is, and it's the energy level has dropped and it's become almost like rote and not very meaningful. I believe some of the things that we spoke about in the conversations I had was the, you know, I hate to bring up the principles, but they were brought up. And we have, I can't even tell you if there's 10 or 12, but there's a number of them. And we always do preface that during the service with, you can say what you want. If you don't believe us, fine. And to me personally, that right there is kind of a message that we're really not cohesive. We need to have something that we can all feel comfortable with, that we can all say. And I think we can work on that together and pare those 10 or 12 down to, you know, 5 or whatever number it turns out to be, so that we can be together and we can say all of them with heartfelt meaning and intent, and give us a stronger, more cohesive identity. So that was one thing, if that's helpful.
May I interject, if I may, just specifically about the principles, because I know I remember 10, 12 years back going through a real strong re-examination of our principles and really seeking to enliven them. I remember, I think it was when Tiger, it was before Tiger and Chuck were together, and Tiger was still very much a part of the community, and she had written out, like, kind of calligraphically almost each one of the principles, and we tried to dedicate one principle to each week for each of us to be reflecting on the principles and trying to both enliven them, and and see whether or not we still felt that it was reflective of who we were, and to embody them more deeply so that they didn't seem just rote and empty, you know, because that's really part of it too. I think probably the better measure of the principles are in keeping with what a lot of us believe, but they've become kind of numbed out because we hear them over and over again, and sometimes we become exhausted by trying to be the only people who hold them up, you know. It really helps when there's other people who are going through that exploratory process. Yeah. Sue.
We all have to remember that those principles are directly out of the spiritualist book.
Right.
So if we want to continue to hearken back to the spiritualist aspect of what the church used to be,
Gotcha.
continue to use the principles. Otherwise, it's time for us to do as you say, create something more, as
feels-
Denise said, you'd say, it's time to create something more cohesive
And
and
it feels
more
alive.
direct towards what we are.
I hear that. And
And
Rick,
I
you had
remember
some.
when
Oh, sorry.
I remember that when Tiger did that. I mean, I think I was probably on the board at that point.
Right.
So I think we also dedicated, like, each Sunday we would have a service based on one of the principles, and it's like, trying to figure out what it meant to us. But
Right.
my memory is a little jaded right now.
Rick, you
Because
had
I've
something to
believed.
say?
Yeah, I put that little orange hand or that yellow hand up there. I don't think anybody saw it. Trying to behave and do it right. When people were talking about what brought them here, when I came here, of course, everybody knows I was steeped in Unity and still am. I did many years of study with Unity and, led adult classes there, led the youth department in Fort Myers, was part of the regional team for youth for 12 years. And that was in the Southeast. Anyway, when I came here, what I was looking for was an opportunity to talk to people who were on a spiritual level that was similar to mine. And so that I could, have somebody to converse with. I loved more than anything about Unity when I was there was the community. So I came here seeking that and almost did not move to Duluth because there wasn't a Unity here. That was that important to me. Through the years, I have, I thought, well, I'll be Unity myself. And I went to the Unitarian church thinking, oh, there's some open-minded people. And there wasn't the spirituality that is at this church with these people that we have here right now. And with all the people that come to that church, there was no real spiritual discussion at the Unitarian church. Not to, badmouth them, but that's just not their thing. So I was glad to be able to come here and to, be able to once in a while get up and give a Unity talk and, talk the principles of Unity that I'm used to. And then on a Sunday, be able to talk to people in a spiritual manner that was similar and open-minded and inclusive like the Unity messages. So I really enjoy, the people that are here at this church. One of the things you mentioned, Lisa, was the principles, and we're talking about these principles. The spiritualist principle, the 12, I think there's either 12, 10 or 12.
12.
The more specific and the more number of those principles that we have, in my opinion, the more people we exclude. So when people look at those principles and they say, I have to be this and this and this and this, and then we say, oh, no, you don't have to be that. And then in their mind, they're thinking, okay, I can be somebody that doesn't quite agree with them. And I can be somebody that doesn't think the same way as them and still go there. I get that. But, when you put those principles out there, that's how people start to judge us. I'm sure there are people that look at online and say, well, what do they believe? Then I'll decide if I'm going to go there on Sunday. So it's that kind of deal. So
You want to kind of cast a wider net.
Yes, absolutely.
Fewer parameters.
Yeah.
I hear that.
Yeah. I would love to see this place grow. If we can grow people and numbers of people here, it gives us so much more opportunity, not just financially, which it does, of course, but it also gives us opportunity to do things like we talked about that we are doing, like working with Chum and working with other organizations, giving more community service, being more an active part of the community. We can't do that with the same 10 people that are sitting here in this room and be successful.
Yep.
We just don't have the energy to do all for everybody. And you imagine if we had, instead of 30 showing up for a service, 60. man,
Absolutely.
what a difference that would make in what we could do for others and for ourselves, you know? So
I agree.
just my thoughts.
Lisa.
Carol.
I just want to point out, while we know that the principles came from spiritualists, they were carefully tweaked, revised, whatever, to fit us, so they are not spiritualist principles anymore. And I'm one of the people, there are a lot of them I can't say the way they are. So either I don't say them or I say something else in my mind or whatever. It's been very difficult for me leading services for 4 years when there are things in there I can't say.
Okay.
I love the idea of tweaking them, consolidating, coming up with 5 or 6 that are more universal. I know Rick had said 5 unity principles would be an option. I have like 5 of them that I've pulled from my studies with Mike Dooley that would also be very simple and very basic. We probably all could come up with 5 or half a dozen that are fairly universal. So I'm just throwing that out there. And thank you all for bringing that up.
You, yeah. Okay.
Well, and it came from Denise, you starting to give your report, or, you know, proceeding with your report on what you heard from the wider non-Zoom members. And so I don't know if we finished talking about the principles part, but or this part, but you know, I think this is really valuable what you're bringing to us, because there's really valid reasons a lot of people aren't here with us that would be in the physical building if we were there.
Right.
Mhm.
And one of the other things was, and it was kind of touched on with between Rick and Lisa and Sue, was that with the inclusivity expanded, that would also allow for all of the small groups that we have in our church to grow, because they would still feel like they belonged. And there's a difference between belonging and fitting in. They would really feel belonging, and their groups would feel like they would belong, and they could grow. For example, I know that there's been, I don't know how to say this, but you know, when we offer groups or have people that have special interests in certain aspects of spirituality or different teachings, there's not enough of us. Like Lisa said and Rick said, we don't have enough bodies to create a group that can grow and discuss. If there's 2 people there, you know, that's a couple. You're not going to get a lot out of that. It's much better, you know, the more people you have, the more perspectives, the more eyes, the more ears, the more hearts, you're going to get that much more out of it. And my perspective on our church is that, you know, if you have an umbrella, a nice big umbrella that covers everything or includes everyone, there's all these little things under the umbrella that can flourish further. I see our church a little bit on Sundays as kind of being backwards, in that our church services on Sunday can be all over the map. And I'm not against variety, and I like variety, and I like hearing different things and different speakers, yet it's not very cohesive. I don't feel like there's a thread going through those things. And I think that we need that Sunday service to focus more on something like we talked earlier on, that we can all buy into and that we can all feel comfortable with, and that we would all be interested in, and we can all gain from attendance. Because I know right now there are people that pick and choose according to the speakers. Oh, I'm going to go to church because so-and-so is speaking, or I'm not going to go to church because so-and-so is speaking. And to me, that's not a community. That's the opposite. And I think if we have that cohesive Sunday service where it is inclusive to all the people, and then their little groups can meet Wednesday night, Tuesday morning, whatever. I know that there's no meeting right now, but I'm talking in the future, that if we get more people to those Sunday services, you're also going to get more people interested in those little groups. And right now we have the little group speaking, and then there's no, I'm not probably using the right words, but I'm trying to say,
I'll jump
you
in
know,
here.
say.
I'll jump in here.
Good.
I'll jump in here from what I think is totally the opposite vantage point. I feel like if we look at the reality of who we are right now, looking at the screen, whatever number of people are here, and we think about the times that we are in, if we kind of contextualize things and say, you know what, we are a small congregation in a relatively small community in a time of pandemic when congregations on a national and international basis are disappearing, are dissolving in their entirety every day. I'd say if this is our weakest link, we're really in good shape. We have something to build on here. We have a true and essential nature that we have come to find each other through. And I use that word resonance because I feel like, Carolyn, what was the name of the gal who's your friend who she's a mystery teacher, has kind of auburny hair. Her name escapes me right now. Carolyn Brooks, I'm asking. Are you there?
I am. I just don't,
She's a teacher. She has come to our church before, like 20 years ago. She lives out in a little woodsy place, and she teaches metaphysical mystery school stuff.
are you sure it was?
Absolutely. She's a friend of yours. You do things together. God, I can't
Okay,
think
but
of it.
because that's not the main point, keep going, Lisa.
Is it
No.
fine?
But I mean, can I, I'd like to share here. Because I've been involved since 2000, so I've been there for 20 years. And I found my way there because Lynn and Dee LaFroth, who when they were growing up, they went to high school with me at Duluth East in the 60s. And I think their family was involved with the church. So, and I knew them because they ran Twin City Wellness Magazine and Gary Beckman's newspaper in the Twin Cities. I guess going back to, I don't know, my jaw dropped open the other day when I was talking to Lisa, because I've wanted to see things change probably for the last 10 years, because every Sunday the ritual is so much the same. And I love the idea of updating the principles. I had no idea that Tiger, that you guys tried to do some of that before. I struggled. I mean, even though I was involved in the Unity Church in Coon Rapids in the cities, and I was involved in a Unity Church in out in California when I was out there with my brother when he was dying. I resonated to this church, but again, there were, and I could relate to the things and the principles, but I know a lot of people who come there, it's really a shock to them, I think, some of those principles. It's making a giant leap beyond where they may be at. I guess we need to find a way to accept people where they're at a little more, rather than try and shove them into there's life after death and we can communicate with the dead. And I mean, a lot of people are on a spiritual path, but they may not have come to that conclusion yet or belief yet. I don't know. I mean, back in the early 2000s when we had the drum group going and we were bringing in outside speakers like Gary Renard and what's his name from New York City came and spoke twice. And we were showing movies. Nancy Knutson and I showed movies almost every week. There was a really vibrant community, I think, and doing some of those things brought people to the church who wouldn't have known about our church if they hadn't come to one
I
of those
agree.
events. So I know there aren't enough of us probably to do that again now.
But that
But
can change.
I would really like to see, yes, I mean, it could change, but I think we need to figure out how to change to attract some. I mean, there's a huge spiritual community in Duluth now. This church used to be the way to go to connect with like-minded people, but now there are many, many other options. And we need to figure out how to include some of these other groups and get them interested in coming to us on a Sunday morning.
Well, I'm going to say, and Rick, I'm happy to have you chime in just a second, that I know we've been approached by Unity congregations in Minneapolis. I know I've been to many Unity churches over the years and have always felt satisfied with what Lake Superior Interfaith has offered. But I feel like the potential of us, if in Duluth, if everybody is kind of either been to a Unity church and has been looking, and we're only talking to 12 or 15 people here, I think it's kind of a match made in prospective heaven, to do the quote unquote. I think that somebody in Duluth will initiate a Unity congregation sometime in the near future. I think that if we step away from ourselves as Lake Superior Interfaith, if we step away from ourselves as individuals in this very moment and just think about the nature of where we are in the 21st century in Duluth, and we know that there are people of a spiritual nature that are swirling and finding a variety of different ways to try to satisfy that, and many of them are doing it electronically. Many of them are sitting in their own homes and they are streaming content to themselves through Gaia, through Agape, through Unity churches in other communities, and they don't have the opportunity to be where the rubber's meeting the road, where there's real live flesh-filled people. And we're in this interim period right now where we are falling back on the technology to try to stay connected, but this will pass, and we will go back and we will have this box, on the corner of 1414 East 9th Street with pews and a space and leadership and the desire and the heart. And I think the contemplation, at least for the exploration of the potential of looking at the Unity model as something that we could either integrate or think about becoming, I really feel the time has come. And I'm ready to hear any aversion or objections to that, but I feel like what I'm hearing is people are probably into the possibility of that.
Doesn't Unity have a primary minister that they have to incorporate in their service?
There are multitudinous, it took 3 years. It took 3 years to move from what was the Spiritualist Church for 80 some odd years to what became Lake Superior Interfaith. There are legalities, there are protocols, there are parameters, there are congregational considerations, there are votes that have to be taken place. There's got to be some substantial, meaningful buy-in to the reality of the potential. And there's got to be considerations for people who have concerns about it. They either need to be addressed and incorporated, or people need to make determinations, or we need to make a determination collectively about whether or not that's the move we're going to make. Maybe we're just going to shore up who we are as Lake Superior Interfaith Community Church and move forward as an independent congregation and reestablish ourselves under that roof. Or we can look at the Unity model. If we look at the Unity model, it's true that there are some ways that the Unity Church operates that, in the same way that we were asked to make changes from the Spiritualist Church to the Interfaith Church, that there's certain ways that we have to abide by the national protocols that are provided.
There are some questions that I can answer that you raised, Lisa.
Great.
One is when, bringing a spiritual leader in there. Our little Unity group, of which there's, 10, 12, 15 of us sometimes, generally on Zoom, we've got about a dozen on a Sunday. That group right there. When we say being a unity church, that group right there, when it is sponsored somewhat loosely right now by Reverend Pat Williamson at Unity Minneapolis. Reverend Pat has said, and this has nothing to do particularly with the physical bricks and mortar at the church of Interfaith, that he would sponsor us as what they call evolving ministry.
Oh.
And that would be our deal. We could be there. There could be a church on Sunday morning that does Lake Superior stuff, whatever. We could be our own church, our own group of people that happen to meet there or happen to meet anywhere else, and be sponsored as an evolving ministry. An evolving ministry, once we do that, once we formally say, yes, we're an evolving ministry sponsored by Unity Minneapolis, then we have actually 5 years from that point to have a certified Unity minister. So that a certified Unity spiritual leader, which could be either be a licensed Unity teacher or an LUT or an LUM, which is a licensed Unity minister. So we have that time, that leeway, if that were ever to be the case. I'm just putting that out there. So, this Lake Superior Interfaith Community Church could be that spot, or it could be somewhere else.
Could you
So that
define evolving ministry?
Pardon me?
Define evolving ministry.
It is very formally defined by Unity as a group of people that are moving in the direction of that have a common Unity emphasis and are moving in the direction of establishing a Unity church within that time period, 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
And
There
does
are
it mean that
dollars
does it mean we pay a minister?
No.
Okay, so you happen to use the word sponsorship, and I didn't know if it was just a word, like it's an effort, or if there's actually a dollar and cent. Like, is there remuneration for the sponsorship? Do we have to be paying out of our collections toward the prospect of them sending somebody up to kind of assist us in this effort or anything?
Okay, first of all, Unity doesn't really, well, there is if we were to do that, we would be a pioneer church, and it takes some work because you got to establish who we are. But we could say this is who we are from that point on, and then when somebody is actually looking for Unity, they would find one. But and at that point, we could actually use some of the Unity symbolism and stuff, which you can't use which I can't put out there. I can't say we are a Unity group. I can say we are a group on Sunday nights that studies Unity books and goes by Unity principles, but I can't say we are a Unity group.
Sure.
So there are some very specific things about that. But what was the question I was going to answer here?
Really about the dollars and cents of it. I'm wondering
Oh,
about
yeah.
whether or not we actually
So,
have to come up with some money to cover anybody's expenses to assist us.
there is no fee to them. What they do is they're encouraging the growth of Unity, really. So when we do that, we fall under the Unity Worldwide Ministries program, which then says the things are tax deductible here. And I can look this up. I don't believe there's a fee to do that because they want people to grow. They don't want to keep people from growing. And with the fact that Unity doesn't send you money, you go to a Presbyterian church, they want to start a church here, they're going to send you $100,000 and a minister, and they're going to start, advertising. But here, unity is just the other way. It's a grassroots effort that comes from the people who really want to have that in their community.
Does anybody have any other questions or comments? Carol?
I have no comments.
I do.
Oh, I meant Carol
Other Carol.
Giesecke.
Oh,
I'm sure I've said this before. My ministry training was led by a unity minister who stepped away from the unity church because he couldn't call it unity, but it was unity principles and Course in Miracles together. I came to them through membership in a unity church in the cities. I had some involvement with different offshoot churches or schools or whatever starting around the cities. My understanding or impression from what Lisa, you and Rick have talked about is that when we do have a licensed teacher come up, which is something that we would want to be moving toward, we would probably have to pay any expenses to bring them up and maybe pay a speaker per diem or something. So there would be money there for sure. In the meantime, and there's nothing necessary. I thought about trying to start a unity church when I moved here 23 years ago.
wow.
And I had some understanding of the work involved, and I knew I did not want to be leading a grassroots effort that would be that huge. And I was very grateful to find a church, our church, that was diverse enough that I could fit in, even though there are things that don't fit me. And I would be surprised if every one of us could not find things there that don't fit our belief or understanding. At the same time, it's that diversity that keeps supporting me to let go of stuff that doesn't serve me and to open my heart and my mind more and more and more. So
Awesome.
yeah, so unity could be wonderful. It won't be everything we want it to be, I'm pretty sure, but it could be what we want.
Well, I think that's a beautiful thing to hear. Is there anybody here on this call that has any concerns they'd like to express about the prospect of us exploring this any further?
I have a question.
Sure.
Number one, I'm completely for the idea. I think it's the best light on the horizon, and it's a fabulous light for how to
Okay.
rejuvenate ourselves. But my questions are around that identification that now, Rick, you've just sort of outlined for us. And my understanding from what you just said, for 5 years, we would have a choice period before we move to another level. And only at that next level do we get to be called unity so people can find us. How do we help ourselves?
What
Go ahead.
that 5 year time frame, Carolyn, is, in other words, so somebody doesn't go 20 years as an evolving ministry with 10 people. So they want you to grow that ministry to call yourself unity. It's not a wait till 5 years and put somebody in there. It's like, hey, you start this program, you want to be a unity, put it out there, start doing unity principles, have a unity message every Sunday, and get the people together. Start going in the community and saying, hey, this is what we have. One of the problems, and I love this church. When somebody asks me, what do you believe? What do they believe? What do you tell them? It's like, well, depends on what Sunday you go there. So,
I fall back on the poster that says all paths lead to God. That's
yes.
what
Yeah. My old my unity minister in Fort Myers had a sticker on his car, one God, many paths. And that is that's true for sure. But the broad unity principles give you an opportunity to include all of the things that we do right now. In a unity, you're going to find Course in Miracles group for sure. Almost every unity I've ever seen has a Course in Miracles group. I don't know. I've never been to a unity that didn't have that. Some of them have Edgar Casey groups. Some of them have groups studying evolution of consciousness with Barbara Marx Hubbard, of which I was a part of for a while. Some
They
of
have
them do.
Abraham. They have the artist's way.
Yes,
They have
absolutely.
multitudes of people who I've had interested. Carolyn Mace and
Oh, absolutely.
Norman. Who was her?
Sheely.
Norman Vincent Peale?
Nope.
Sheely. Norm Sheely.
Norm Sheely and
Okay.
came and spoke at the for the because I used to go on the New Year's service in St. Petersburg when I would visit my sister, and they always had a special international speaker, and so Carolyn Mace and Norm Sheely, have done amazing things when it comes to alternative healing work and integrating spiritual healing into medical models. And I mean, like just about every single thing that I think any one of us as individuals that I've ever known you guys to be involved with have been a part of the unity congregations that I've gone to witness the services of.
So they all fit under that broad spiritual umbrella that is so inclusive with those
Yep.
5 principles. If you look at those, they're really inclusive.
I have
So
them
they all
right
fit
here.
there.
This
Oh,
is
wonderful.
What are they?
principles.
Read them out to us. Let's hear them, Carol.
God is absolute good everywhere present. Human beings have a spark of divinity within them, the Christ spirit within. Their very essence is of God, and therefore they are also inherently good. Human beings create their experiences by the activity of their thinking. Everything in the manifest realm has its beginning in thought. Prayer is creative thinking that heightens the connection with God mind and therefore brings forth wisdom, healing, prosperity, and everything good.
It's going on longer.
Knowing and understanding the laws of life, also called truth with a capital T, is not enough.
Wait a minute.
A person must also live the truth that he or she knows. Those are the unity principles. I also want to share 5 that I have gotten from Mike Dooley, which he shares over and over. We are all one. Thoughts become things. That's his tagline. Life is eternal. There is only love. It's all good. It's all God.
I love it.
Boy, those are
Thanks,
great. 'cause
Scott.
they're
I
so
love
simple.
that one, Carol.
They're not that different.
No,
Yeah.
they are not.
And
No.
it's simple. Thank you.
So I'm
Carol-
gonna surmise. Yeah, Sue.
Oh, just real quick, Carol, could you type those out in an email and send those out to us? The Dooley ones?
Yes, Bet. Yes, Bet. Yes, you. Yes.
Just to let you know though, Sue, there are different versions floating around. So when you can go to one Unity and get one version, you can get another version. Anybody also, I would encourage you to go to visit unity.org. Unity.org is a massive website with so much resources and information there. And also anybody can call me too if you want. I can I would talk unity all day, every day, wherever you want to be. It really shaped my life. It really made such a huge difference for me coming from my traditional background when I was a kid.
So Rick, I'm going to ask you right again now. When can we talk about unity and that let people know that that's what we are choosing to rejuvenate ourselves with? They don't need to know that, but if we make that choice, that's the wisest future choice for us, whether or not it has deficits. If we say this is the best path, then when do we get to be known as that?
And Lisa.
I would love to see us move in that direction, Carolyn. We have a congregation in its entirety to be
Oh,
in
I of course
consideration
know, Lisa. I know that. Of course.
I know you know that, but you did pose the question, and so
No,
I just want to
posed the
say,
question as a very specific pathway according to the unity rules that Rick is here to answer when he's usually at work. So you know, it's not at all ignoring the fact that there's a pathway to do that, and it might take 2 years. We don't know. But, you know, just because it would be a path of regeneration for us,
I concur.
when would we be public about that, Rick?
Well, that could happen very quickly. I think, you know, of course, we're going to have to be very gentle. If that were ever to be the case, we're going to have to be very gentle with everyone in this congregation, if that were ever the case. And really respectful of everyone. And
I don't think that's a question on anybody's heart. I really don't.
I don't think so either.
We love each other, and
Yes,
we're going to
absolutely.
do it the right way, to the best of guidance and conversation we can do. But
The answer is we could move quickly if you wanted to,
okay,
if that were the case. It
Mhm.
wouldn't take much. And Reverend Pat is on speed dial for me. So he
Is this
said,
the
call
one
him
that's in?
anytime, and he would be in he would love to come up here and talk to us. He would love to, you know, whatever. You know, he's been in our group on occasion. He's been a couple times on Sunday nights.
Mhm. And is he the one in Golden Valley?
He is, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I heard about that one, and that there are two, and that's the very vibrant one.
There's actually more than two, but the two big ones, one
All
there
right.
and one in
But
Bloomington.
I don't want to
that are-
belabor that point, but I'm
Yeah,
glad that's the
yeah, yep.
connection we have. Mhm.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
two decent
I think
sized
it's a good
congregations. There.
idea. I think
Yeah.
it's a good idea because I think our church, I don't know, I don't think we're going to make it very long if we maintain what we're doing right now, because our
Right.
smaller and smaller congregation, and eventually we won't be able to pay for the church. I mean, you know, we're the ones that are putting up the money, and it, you know, I mean, it's like, if this is all we're going to have, then we should just get rid of the church and just do Zoom. You know, but I think Unity sounds like a really good, you know, if we want a church,
Yeah.
if we want a structure, then that would, I think that sounds like a logical,
Yeah.
and I'm 100%, I'm sure we would get people there, people to our church.
Yeah.
Our church still has a stigma that it's a spiritualist church. I mean, there are a lot of people that still think it's so woo that they're not going to go.
And
Where-
what's so yeah,
Go
and what's so funny is the whole world is so much more woo-woo than it was 10 years ago. We were the little path cutters, and
Right.
now to the folks who have followed the way of the woo for the last 20 years,
Right.
we're in the dust.
Yeah.
You know,
we're in the dust.
Yeah.
the whole point is, I had a teacher one time who told me that, like, one of my deepest missions and charges when I graduated 20 years ago from some metaphysical school that I went to, he came to me and he said, Lisa, it is to you to spiritualize matter.
Oh,
To spiritualize matter. When you talk about, like, you know, like the way that in the arc of history the Bible talks about heaven on earth, right? That is the spiritualization of matter. That is all of us embodying, whether you want to call it our essence, our spirit, our Christed heart center, however you want to language it. It's where we've all been evolving to as individuals. I believe every single one of the people who is within earshot of me right now has been on this quest for an extended
agree.
period of time. And
Yeah.
we all know people who have the same desire and interest, whether they language it in a similar way or not. So I'm all for, like, I would like to formalize this conversation that we're having right now
Right.
with whatever step needs to be taken. This isn't a board meeting, but Rick, I am extending to you directly. I'm happy to meet with the minister from the Unity Church. I think that our board might want to do it collectively. If
Right.
people don't have as much time, then I will volunteer my time. I have some more time to do it. I'm here in town to do it.
Good.
But whatever the next step is, I think in the exploratory process, and I really do want to emphasize this because we all know that we run the risk of having some blowback from a smattering of people who are in the congregation who have not been a part of the evolution of even this conversation this morning, of saying, well, what? Suddenly we decided we were going to become a unity church? It's like, no, we're really wanting to do this consciously and methodically and go through the exploration of it. So
Oh,
Yeah.
sounds so good.
Yep. I will do whatever I can to get you all the information that you need, Lisa, and I will definitely be actively involved with you guys in however I can help.
And
to
it can be done
find
on
this out.
Zoom, so we,
Oh, yeah.
you know, we can all participate and we can have,
Absolutely.
and listen, just to remind ourselves, how did gay marriage get into the law of the land? It was through individual conversations, door to door, phone call to phone call. It was all relationship.
Yeah.
We do not have that many people. Denise has already begun that process with a first round of calls. We're not talking about a big mountain here of conversations. And so I can't imagine why we wouldn't want to have the exploratory information of what are the steps we need to proceed with. And so that we are just informed. Just informed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
does everybody feel like they're in agreement with that, or should I ask in the opposite
Yeah.
way? Does anybody
That's
have any aversion to
Yeah.
that?
Yes, we're in agreement. We're in
Yeah,
agreement.
yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
like to see a show of hands or non-hands, just so that I know. Lita, do you have any concerns? I don't see a hand. Lita?
What? No, I'm off.
Then raise your hand.
Raise your hand, Lisa.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, all in favor, raise your hand.
Yay! Yay!
Oh, no.
Yay!
Awesome. And I just like to say, for me personally, I mean, look at all of us and our smiles on our faces. Don't you all feel like a little lighter already? Like maybe there's some
good.
movement here taking place. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing.
Yes.
Yes.
So love it.
Thank you, everyone.
Harley,
There's
you.
one thing.
you're on mute if you're trying to talk to us.
I kept thinking there was something that had to happen, but I wasn't sure what it should be,
Yeah?
because I knew we were dying on the vine here.
Sweet.
Right.
Sweet. Well, we will
There-
put that behind us, and we are in a new year. Yes, Sue.
Well, I'm thinking that since we've already discussed the first question, like for an hour and a half now, that we may want to put the other two questions on hold until the next another time.
I think we've almost covered all of the questions
we've
in some
covered
it.
form or fashion.
I think slowly evolved into 2 and 3. So I think we
Oh, okay.
basically did cover them. But one thing I wanted to add, just a thought that's been running through my head for a long time, was maybe even back to a year ago when Phyllis did speak that year ago, mentioning cornerstone. And if you look up the definition of cornerstone, that's a foundation.
Yes.
It's the beginning. And I think that's very important to keep in mind, and it might be a good point to bring up with other people of our congregation who might just spark something in them if they're reluctant. Also, just the coincidence, and I don't believe in coincidences, that we sort of have lost our identity with our government. That I think there's a
Yeah.
reason that we need to really look at ourselves and say, who are we? Where are we going? What do we want to be?
Right.
What are we putting out there? And I really, really believe that we're going in the right direction with the conversation we had today. I think it's very important. I do agree with Lisa. I see many happy faces and smiles. And like I said, when I did call people, I was surprised those that did call were very responsive and open and accepting. Granted, I didn't get to call a lot of people, and a lot of people didn't call me back. But if any of you, like I say, I've only been in the church a little over 5 years. And some of you may be better ambassadors, should I say, in reaching out to some of these people that because you may know much more history and much more personalities
Sure.
than I do. And, you know, it was pretty scary for me to start calling some of these people. And I'm like, okay. But fortunately for me, I must have called the right one. Something gave me the right numbers in my head to reach out to. But if you have anyone that you feel you would be a good ambassador for, that would be, they would feel comfortable, more comfortable speaking with you and talking with you and knowing their history and personalities a little bit more, it would be helpful. That's all.
Beautiful. Okay.
Thank you,
How
Denise.
about, to finalize that, or sort of put a validity to what you just said, Denise, maybe we could call you if we're available for calls, and you could sort of keep an organizational understanding of it. Would that be something you feel is you would fit or not? And I don't need to put you on the spot. You could think about it.
I just, like, I really encapsulated what I heard, but I didn't want to mention anybody's name specifically. I intentionally left that all out, but because I think that's important. I don't want people to come back and say, oh, you said I said this, or, you know, I don't want to say that. So I'm trying to keep it. So if you can give me general information, I'd be very happy to keep track of that. But
well, and just of who's calling who. You know, sort of whatever. It can be worked out as a part of the board process.
Our next meeting, we can discuss how we can better reach out to everyone in a effective
I'm
way.
going to say that at this point in time, in light of the technology, since most people, there are obviously a lot of people who are not joining our Zoom mix, but almost everybody gets email, and at some point in time, within a month's time, generally finally reads it. I think the thing to do is, since we've kind of shifted away, are we not doing a newsletter at all? Has a determination been made that we aren't doing a newsletter right now because of pandemic?
I stopped doing it because of the pandemic. And I believe I've said to your board, I'm sure I've said to Carol, if she wants to do one, if you want to do one, it's open to doing a formal newsletter, or my suggestion was just a monthly email that's kind of a heads up of what's coming in the next month.
All right. And were we doing our newsletters every other month?
2 months at a time.
2 months at a time. Okay. I think that this is newsletter or there's an interesting line I want to walk right here. Is a newsletter is perceived by the public and the government, because the IRS actually wants to know some of these things. It's part of their little questioning. They want to know, do we have a creed? Do we have leadership? Do we have weekly meetings? Do we have principles? Because almost any body of people can call themselves a church just to obtain a tax exemption. We're not on that end of the spectrum, but they have put safeguards in place to preclude that. So we want to be able to the extent that we feel prepared to legitimize the exploratory process, we're either going to want to put this in an email or then maybe have that email progress into a newsletter. But we need to do something that broadcasts it to our congregation in its entirety, allows for feedback, and then we need to formalize something in a newsletter.
Right. Let's do it that way. Let's do it that way.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And then I want to say, what we do not want to do right now is we do not want to use social media to advertise any of this, because we don't want people who are not members, who are members of our congregation who have not had the benefit of this last 2 hours of conversation, having any confusion about what they are a part of. Even if they have interest in being a part of a unity congregation, they will have disinterest in not having participated in the process. It's really important. So, we don't want to have this on Facebook yet. I had a conversation with Jasmine, because I think she's the Facebook person. She can add information. And she said, oh, if you want to give me that unity blurb, I can just put it up there so everybody can see it. And I said, I think it's too early to do that. We need to make an internal determination, and that may take it may take a week, Carolyn Sheets. It may take a week, or it may take 6 months to a year, you know.
Carolyn Sheets does not stand for a week or 3. Carolyn Sheets just wanted information.
I know.
I think it's going to be all in conversations, and I love the idea of making sure we state something in a newsletter and keep it all off social media and allow the relationship process and the newsletter is part of the relationship with our church to carry this so respectfully.
Yeah, I think it's vital.
Yeah.
I got 2 quick things. One is that Lisa makes a very good point. You know, we don't want to, one of the reasons they don't want us to use Unity logos, call ourselves Unity, is they want to know that we have our act together. You don't want somebody showing up here and thinking that they're going to have a Unity service or something and we don't have it together yet.
Yep.
So
Right.
that's one thing. And the other point I wanted to say is I'm going to just send everybody my name and phone number in case anybody wants to get a hold of me, because I want you all to be able to get a hold of me, because I love to talk Unity and I will certainly answer any questions to the best of my knowledge. I've got 29 years with them. I'm in leadership with them. I'm a certified spiritual educator with Unity. So I will send that all to you, just so you know.
Thank you.
Just so you, in case anything I can't answer it all, for sure. For sure, I don't know.
Sure. Okay.
That's good. All right.
Carol, it looks like it might be time to wrap it up.
It's so time. I know my brother's going to be calling. It's like, are you going to be meeting me or not? So it's like for a walk. Okay. So I want to close with our unity final prayer of protection. That's it. How perfect this is. Okay. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is.
And all is well.
Well,
It is so well. Thank you, everybody. This is the most awesome meeting.
Peace out.
We
I'm so glad I
totally
could be here.
accept the belief that God is in charge
God
of the
is in
affairs
charge.
and direction of Lake Superior Interfaith Community
Community
Church.
Church.
We know that as our thoughts of trust and in joyful anticipation join with the harmony of all the members of this community, we are blessed. We attract the right ministerial leadership. That's you.
Thank
I'm
you.
Yes.
grateful.
Thank you.
And we are grateful. And I'm grateful to all of you. Thank you.
I am grateful.
Yeah.
Thank you all. God
Thank
bless.
I'm grateful that God put me in
Everybody.
quarantine this weekend to be here.
Yay, God.
And God bless America in our transition.
Yes.
Oh, for sure, Arlie, for sure.
Prayers for the light.
Bye,
Yes.
everybody. I'm going to go.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
I
Bye-bye.
Happy New Year.